This is the first battle in a Brutality Skirmish Wargame solo campaign I will be running. This team is from the Collegium Carnis, and they deal a lot with the dark arts and technology and body modifications and that sort of thing, whether the test subject is willing or not. The person on the left is Miles. He is going to be the leader of this group. He is an assistant Scientifica Technologic, and he just recently made a big goof and destroyed one of the devices in the Collegium Carnis facility. So his boss, Leeler, is going to force him to go on a trip to get the parts from another place. And so, it being that it's a very dangerous trek, he is going to get his right-hand person, which is Lancer, right next to him, the lady with the 3 arms. And she is essentially his bodyguard. She's very well equipped. She will be ranged. He will be support. The person in the middle is called Reich, and he is going to be a fast with some stealth. Then we have Gil, which is the giant teddy bear monstrosity over there. And finally we have Dunch, is the large ogre type person with the Gatling gun all the way to the right. He is very much lobotomized, so he is extremely stupid and follows all the commands that Miles gives him, but he is extremely dumb. Gil, who is the teddy bear, is going to be kind of a wisecracker, and he also has some of his memory remaining, although he's been heavily modified by the Collegium Carnis. And then, of course, Reich in the center and Lancer on the left of Reich. They both are regular people that have not been lobotomized, and they are going to help Miles. Miles is a very much no-nonsense person. He is much older than his boss in the Collegium Carnis, but he's trying to make a name for himself, and he is unfortunately unlucky at times. So that is exactly why he is not higher up in the Collegium Carnis. So, that is going to be the backdrop for our very first mission. This is the scene where Leeler chews poor Miles out and says this is the last time that he has a chance to redeem himself, or he is kicked out of her tutelage, and he will be completely losing his rank in the Collegium Carnis, and she's not going to put up with his crap any longer. So this journey means a lot to him. He's got to get the device back, or else everything he's worked for the decades he's been in the Brutal Realm is completely null and void. The setting for this mission is as soon as they leave the Collegium Carnis, they walk for about half a day until they come to the ruins of an old city. This could have been a city that was plopped down here from another reality, or this actually could be an ancient civilization that once did thrive and exist, potentially centuries ago, from the inhabitants of Brutality. So, Gil, the large bear, notices some crates in some debris near an abandoned building. So they decide, well, since we're here, we might as well take a look at it. Maybe it's a dropping from Ishtar, or, maybe some poor sap died and left it here. There's no harm in taking a look. But once they get up to the crates, they realize they are full of devices and other merchandise and things like that, but unfortunately they don't have much time to actually look through them, as they hear whoever the previous owners were coming back for their loot. So they prepare for battle. Okay, so this is the solo mission where we have 3 objectives to protect. They would be right here, right there, and right over there. And the enemies all have their own AI, so they are trying to accomplish their own goals, and they score big for accomplishing their own goals. They get more victory points than I do for getting mine. So these robots happen to be the people that were owning this cache before we got there. So the first one is an ordnance. He's got that giant gun on his arm, and it will explode on impact. Then we have a basic melee guy, and we have a flight person that's fast. And then finally, we have a cavalry who also has flight. So these are all robots. The AI that we rolled for is that he hates melee people, so good luck, Teddy. He also hates melee people, so good luck, Teddy Bear. And then he just wants this objective right here. He just wants to grab the stuff and protect their stuff. And then he hates support characters, which of course our leader, Miles, is a support person. So Let's see how this goes. The player gets to activate first, so I moved Gil over to that objective and he starts looting stuff. He successfully gets a victory point and an experience. For their first activation, the melee person moves up and his AI states that he wants to grab the objectives whenever possible, and he scores 2 victory points when he does that. He just successfully scored 2 victory points. Remember how I said Miles is a real screw-up? He tries to use 2 of his powers, Time Slip, and that critically fails, hurting himself. Then he tries to produce a barrier to help protect them, and that also fails, poor guy. Next activation is the cavalry. He flies over to here and assaults poor Gil. Gil loses 2 hit points, unfortunately. Gil strikes back with 3 total hits, because 1 was a critical, but unfortunately they were all saved by the bike-mounted robot. The next activation for our team is Lancer. She takes aim trying to protect her buddy Gil and deals a damage and an agony token for this ordnance character. Their next model to activate was the blue fly guy who wants to take out poor Miles. He assaults Miles inside, dealing him a damage, and Miles is unable to do anything in return. Dunch tries to take his shot at this ordnance robot, dealing him another damage and a broken leg, which is -2 movement, but is still unable to kill him. This robot needs to take a willpower check. If he fails it, he can't shoot this turn, which would be great. He needs a 1 through 5. A 10! He fails it, which is awesome. So all he can do is move. He will sit there, and our buddy Gil is safe for another turn because this robot has it out for Gil. Reich jumps down, giving him rerolling to hits, and he strikes at the blue guy, trying to protect poor Miles right here. And believe it or not, Reich completely murders him. He had 2 attacks, he criticaled one of them, so that was 3 hits, and the robot failed all of them. Not to mention, just for the sake of it, for the sake of story, he rolled an agony on the robot, he gave him lacerations, and he skewered him. So if he would have survived somehow, he would have had -2 dexterity, -2 movement, and he would have been in agony just like the ordnance robot. So Reich is apparently a force to be reckoned with. Okay, so at the beginning of the turn, we rolled on the solo and co-op event table, and what we rolled is Creeping Tangles. Any models starting activation in a terrain feature get -2 movement for this game turn, which unfortunately is my entire warband, minus Gil, and also involves him. So we all get -2 movement because there's vines wrapping around our feet. The NPC warband has lost 1 model, we've lost none, so they are going to go first. The first thing they're going to do is activate him. He's searching through this crate again, and he gets 2 more victory points because that's all he cares about doing. So now it is 4-2 in favor of them. Our first activation is going to be Dunch right here. He takes aim with his Gatling gun and completely annihilates the ordnance monster. And the ordnance guy is completely dead, scoring not only us a victory point, but Dunch an experience. Alright, this next activation is going to be a little bit of a surprise. This guy wanted to charge Gil. He could not because we used our feet this turn. His next possible thing he wants to do is pray at the objective, or loot the objective, I mean. And he's too close and in line of sight for Gil to do that. So the next thing he wants to do is get into combat. He flies up there, and he charges her, he deals her a damage, and he breaks her hand, -1 fighting skill, and she does nothing back to him. Unfortunately, he pushes her out the window, and it did not do any damage to her, but it is kind of funny that he pushed her right out through that broken window. For her next activation, she stands back so she can see him through the window and takes a point-blank shot at him. She's got the point-blank ability, gives her +1 to hit, ranged when she's at half range. And she does manage to do a damage to him, and destroys one of the thrusters on his bike, giving him -2 movement. After such a devastating murder he just committed, Reich jumps up and charges the bike. Unfortunately, he's not able to do anything to it, and the cavalry guy does not strike Reich back either. Deciding that it's best to double down on what they actually came here to do, Miles uses his free action to move and run through that broken window, and finally loot that objective, scoring 1 victory point. For the final activation of turn 2, Gil moves over to that crate, starts tearing it open, and successfully loots it as well, scoring another victory point for our team. So, at the end of turn 2, it is the score 5-4 in our favor now. On the beginning of turn 3, the AI get to go first. They've lost more models than we have. So, because his AI chart said he hated melee models, and this is the closest melee model, the biker flew down here behind the teddy named Gil and assaulted him from behind. Unfortunately, he did 2 unsaved damage to Gil and killed him, but not before Gil was able to use one of his nasty tentacles right here and stab that robot in one of his sensors, blinding him for next turn, which is not too bad. He also dealt the damage. For the player's first activation this turn, Lancer, who is Miles' assistant, she runs up here using her ranged augments and shoots at the melee guy here, trying to kill him. She does put him in agony, and she does deal a wound, but that is it. The AI is using the faction trait Regeneration because they're robots, and he's going to use one of their feat that will heal 1 hit point from him and remove all of his tokens. So now he's perfectly fine. He's going to turn around and assault her. The robot successfully moves over and charges poor Lancer. He does 3 total hits on her, and she saves none of them. So she is completely murdered. Lancer will gain an insanity, and she does nothing back to him in retaliation, unfortunately. She missed her hit. Miles is going to try to loot this crate. He needs a 2-9, and he gets a 5. That's another victory point for our team. Dunch aims through this window right here with his Gatling gun, and he takes a pot shot at this red robot. He deals 1 damage, but unfortunately nothing on the wound chart. Next up is our last model for this turn, Reich. He jumps out the window here, runs using a free action, charges the bike, does a critical charge roll, and deals him a confusion as he slams into the side of the bike. Then he uses his whip and his sword to completely dismember this robot. So the robot deals 1 damage with no wound chart rolls back to Reich, but Reich earns us a victory point by killing him. At the bottom of turn 3, the score is tied 7-7. They got 2 victory points for killing Gil over here. They got 1 victory point over here for killing Lancer. Then Miles scored 1 victory point, and Reich scored 1. So the AI this turn has gained 3 points, we've gained 2, and previously it was 5-4, now it's 7-7. And the score is tie at the beginning of the last turn. Their only activation, they go first because they lost the most models, so their only activation for the AI is for him to move from here back over to here, because this is what his goal is to score objectives this game. So we're going to roll a 2-9, and he barely gets it with a 9, scoring them 2 more victory points and putting them up to 9. So now it's 7-9. Alright, it is only us left, so I'm going to go ahead and roll the loot roll for Miles, 2-9. He gets it with an 8, that's a victory point for us and experience for him. Then Reich is going to move over right here, bring his hit points with him, and he's going to roll 2-9, and he gets it. So now we have gotten 2 more victory points to match their 2 victory points. So now all that's left is for Dunch to try to take him out. If he can take him out, then we will actually win the game and not tie. I feel like I might as well show the roll for this shot, because this is kind of a crucial shot whether or not we win this game. So, this red guy has a dex of 5. Dunch is going to shoot at him, but he's not going to move, he's going to aim. So that means I need a 6 or higher, and aiming makes it a 4 or higher. Let's see what happens. 1 hit, that's probably not going to be enough to kill him. He's got a save of 3, and he's in over half cover, so that makes him a save of 5, which he saves. Unfortunately, Dunch is not allowed to kill this guy for a victory point, which means we tied the game 9-9, which is not terrible, but it's also going to have bad effects because Ishtar does not like half measures, and as far as the campaign's concerned, The next time that we have a mission in this campaign, the event tables are going to be much harder to score on because Ishtar is mad. At the end of this mission, this is what my stat sheet looks like. I'm not going to go into every little detail, but Dunch scored 2 experience, and that allowed him to get a passive ability, and I decided that he likes to wander around because he's lobotomized. So he actually has the scavenging ability, and when we're in the home phase, he has a chance to actually get us an extra gold because he just wanders around and finds it, believe it or not. Gil got 2 experience, and that also gives him a passive ability. I said before he's kind of the wisecracker of the group, even though he's half lobotomized, so he is actually inspiring, and he has a chance to remove insanity from other models. Reich also got 4 experience, so he actually leveled up twice. He got Vanguard, which allows him a little extra space in our deployment zone to get out in front of everybody, and now his movement is 10, so he is super fast. Lancer contributed quite a bit, but unfortunately she never actually scored a victory point, and she died. So she's at 0. And then Miles, he leveled up twice as well. He increased his willpower to make his powers easier to do, and his passive ability now is Chemistry on an 8 up. So we're going to try and do all those in the home phase and see what we get. We are going to start with Dunch. He's going to wander around the base. Maybe he robs someone, maybe he just finds it. But on a 6 up, he gets us an extra gold. And we get a 7. So I'm going to go ahead and write that on my sheet right here. And we have an extra gold in our coffers, which is awesome in case we find a merchant. Then we have Gil. He's inspiring, so he's going to try to take an insanity off somebody else. He can't take it off himself, unfortunately. So Lancer, he's got inspiring on an 8 up. He's going to try and talk Lancer out of her insanity. And he fails that, so she still has her insanity. Vanguard is not an ability used in the home phase, so we skip that. Now finally Chemistry on an 8 up. Miles is going to try to craft a healing potion on an 8 up. And he gets a 1. Boy, he really is kind of a mess up, isn't he? Alright, we're going to go ahead and explore on the exploration chart. I'm going to take Lancer as the leader for this. So this is the exploration chart right here in the book. We're going to go ahead and roll that. And we got a 2. Reconnaissance. Your next mission, opponent must deploy all of their army first. So that is what Lancer got us. I believe that's it for this, so you see how they level up and everything. I will be doing a second mission as soon as I get the chance. Thank you so much for watching this first battle report in the Journey of Redemption for poor Miles and company. So let's see what they get into next week. I will see you then.